The Guinness Book of World Records somehow has a section on pro wrestling. Natalia told me so. She also told me as a means to get Aaliyah into said record books, so cheers for that, Natty. Records are made to be broken, or so I'm told. But what happens when you set the bar too high and no one is able to match your performance? Well, in that case, that record really wouldn't have been made to be broken, now would it? In the world of wrestling, there are a big ol' bunch of unbreakable records due to one set of circumstances or another making them impossible to top. Whether that be the business changing or the performances involved simply being untouchable, circumstances have made these 10 records unreachable, so take a sigh of relief, Aaliyah. I don't think anyone is taking your spot from you. I'm Tempest hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are 10 wrestling records that will never be broken. And before we get on with our list, make sure that you like this video and subscribe so that you never miss another fun wrestling list just like it, and maybe we'll break our record of most subscribers. All it takes is one more, so subscribe now. Number 10, number of reigns with defunct titles. We'll get this out of the way in bulk, mostly because, barring some bizarre change that would see the ECW World Championship inexplicably return from the dead, the records held regarding defunct championships should be set in stone at this point. That means the Sandman's record 5 reigns as ECW champion, Raven's 27 reigns as hardcore champion, or AJ Lee and Eve's 3 respective reigns as Divas champion will stand throughout the ages until WWE loses it and brings back the butterfly belt when the next generation gets nostalgic for all the PG era bits that turned off a generation. This of course is not limited to just WWE titles, as there are oodles of titles across the world that will have their own specific record holders that need not worry about being usurped, because for as much as I miss the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, I don't think it's coming back. Now pardon me while I go cry in a corner. Number 9, The Undertaker's WrestleMania win-loss record. The Undertaker's WrestleMania winning streak is one of the greatest creations to ever come through the WWE pipeline. While the first 12 or so of those matches had a lot more bad than good mixed in, the back half of Taker's streak became one of the greatest selling points for each WrestleMania until its demise at the hands of Brock Lesnar. What makes the streak and Undertaker's overall WrestleMania win-loss record of 25-2 the most remarkable is the sheer impossibility of ever recreating it. A lot of stars would have to align to even have a chance of replicating the success the mayor of Lavender Town has had at WrestleMania. The longevity, the talent, the necessity to win each of the matches even early on when the idea of a winning streak couldn't have been fully formed. It is simply a once-in-a-lifetime feat that will never be duplicated. Number 8, most decades with a wrestling match. Now, I will preface this by saying this is not technically impossible to break. All it would take is Ric Flair wrestling a match in 2030 and again in 2040. Now, while I certainly would not consider that likely, who are you to doubt the insanity of Ric Flair at this point? As it stands, this impressive record is held by everyone's favorite sexually charged senior citizen, Mae Young. There are some inconsistencies with when Mae Young had her first wrestling match, with Young at one point claiming to have debuted in 1939 when she was 16. However, historians have found no records of this and estimate that Young competed for the first time in 1941. Even so, this would put Young's impressive record at having wrestled in a whopping 8 different decades, having wrestled in every decade from the 40s until her last match, and I do use the term match very loosely, in 2010. Her handicap Falls Count Anywhere bout with Lay Cool hardly resembles a wrestling match, but there was a bell, so for the record book's sake, that is another decade in which she wrestled. Lou Thesz sits just behind her, having wrestled in 7 different decades during his illustrious career. Number 7, most pay-per-view matches. Here's a fun one that will also never be matched unless there's another promotion that comes along that's as batshit crazy as TNA was during the early days. The records for most WWE pay-per-view appearances by a man and woman are held by Randy Orton and Natalia, having reached those accolades at Survivor Series 2021. However, while WWE records are fine for WWE's giant tome of records constantly being rewritten by an intern locked up in the dungeons of Titan Tower, the record for most pay-per-view appearances across all promotions goes to the phenomenal AJ Styles. While Randy Orton currently sits at 187 pay-per-view matches from his time in WWE, Styles, having wrestled with TNA during their weekly pay-per-view era, has competed on 295 pay-per-views. Most companies have dialed back on the number of pay-per-views they put on each year, with WWE returning to a much more modest 12 events per year, and even then, who's to say that premium live events even fall into the same category? Maybe we have to wait for someone to compete in as many AEW pay-per-views as possible. It would only take them 59 years to tie him. Number 6, shortest time spent in a Royal Rumble match. Not for a lack of trying, but WWE will never be able to top their favorite Royal Rumble record, that being Santino Marella's 1-second run of dominance in the 2009 Royal Rumble match. For years, WWE aired the Warlord's worst moment in their by-the-numbers video packages with a big ol' 2 seconds flashing up on screen. That seemed difficult enough to beat, but not impossible if done perfectly. Then Santino did it perfectly. The timing, the speed, all accentuated by the perfect reaction and camera work, it was truly a perfect Royal Rumble moment and a record that won't be broken. WWE tried to have Titus O'Neil top this spot in 2015, but that Rumble was cursed, so he didn't quite make it. Number 5, shortest wrestling match. Okay, I propose the only way that this record could be broken is with a match that goes 1 to 2 seconds. Here's how. Bell rings, immediate kick to the penis, immediate referee reaction, bell rings. That's it, that's the only way. WWE nearly did this in 2008 in a match between Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, you know, the match that preceded Hardy's greatest swanton bomb ever, but the referee took so much time to assess the situation that a 2-second match became impossible. It is a shame because as it stands, the record for shortest match in history is held by a few people who have managed to put away their opponents in just 3 seconds. The Rock defeated the Big Boss Man during the Deadly Games tournament quick and easy in 3 seconds flat, and of course, everyone's favorite former WWE Women's Tag Team Champion Aaliyah beat Natalya in 3 seconds after a soliloquy from Natty saying that she would set the record for fastest victory. Boy, that sure is a coincidence, isn't it? If I walked into a shoot sport with the intention of setting the record for fastest win and got hit with the fastest loss, I would simply retire. Number 4, longest wrestling match. Now on the other end of the spectrum, while the shortest possible wrestling match would have to be one of the most contrived things since Palpatine's plan in Rise of Skywalker, to have the longest match, you have to go in the complete opposite direction. See, this is a bit of a cheat answer because in order to find the longest wrestling match in history, you have to go back to the days of wrestling past when dudes walked to the ring without a finish. Yes, the longest wrestling match on record was a world championship match between the very defensive Ed Strangler Lewis and Joe Stecker, who wrestled to a 5-hour draw in Omaha on July 4th, 1918. Alright, all you so-called Iron Men and women, let's see you top that! Wrestling could not be more different in the century that has passed since this match took place, and as a result, it's impossible to believe that anyone will ever come close to approaching the record for longest wrestling match ever. Many matches reach legendary lengths on the indies. A gauntlet match for Smash Wrestling in Ontario went the whole show in top 3 hours, but that's about as close as it gets, and it ain't even close. Number 3, highest wrestling TV ratings. Now there may again be a few different answers to this entry, but regardless, none of these records are being approached considering the current state of the television industry. In the United States, the highest rated wrestling show of all time is a famous one, that being the double Hebner screwjob of Hulk Hogan that saw Andre the Giant become WWE champion for a hot minute before handing the title to Ted DiBiase on NBC's The Main Event, a show that was watched by 33 million people and drew a 15.2 Nielsen rating. However, if you look more globally, you will find incomprehensible audiences for matches involving the father of wrestling in Japan, Ricky Dozan. For Ricky Dozan's NWA International Championship match with Lou Thesz on October 13th, 1957, it is estimated that it was watched by 80% of the Japanese population at the time, equaling roughly 70 million viewers and an 87.0 rating. You will never see numbers like that again in wrestling, no matter where you are, barring the return of every great wrestler of all time having a six-pack challenge for the WWE Championship or something. And even then, probably not. Number 2, longest reigning WWE champion. While not the first WWE champion, Bruno Sammartino set the bar impossibly high as the first true standard bearer of the WWE. Reigning as the second ever champion, Bruno held the title for 2,803 days, around 7.5 years. There's a reason why his Hall of Fame announcement got a standing ovation in a city that he had no connection to, and it's because any WWE fan worth their salt knows who he is and what he did with this title. His near 8 years with the title hasn't been approached in decades, with Roman Reigns' current 2+ year reign being the first time anyone has eclipsed 2 years since the 80s. The business has simply changed since the 60s and 70s, and now it would be virtually impossible to hold on to an audience's attention with one champion for that long. I mean, until Braun Breaker makes his main roster debut, strap the rocket to that guy, 10-year champion right there. And number 1, longest reigning women's champion. While Bruno Sammartino's WWE Championship reign is looked at as a beacon of success in the title's history, a true testament to his legitimate drawing power over a ridiculous length of time, the Fabulous Moolah's reign as women's champion is the opposite. When you look at it for the first time, Moolah's record-setting reign looks like a typo. But no, she really did hold the belt for 10,170 days, nearly 28 years. Sort of. It is WWE revisionist history, choosing to ignore the time she wasn't champion before she sold the rights to the title to WWE in 1984. Yeah, that's right, she owned the title. She even had her picture on it. Obviously, this record is never being approached. Moolah at one point was considered a legend of the industry, but as the years have gone by and more information has come forth about her exceedingly poor treatment of other women's wrestlers, essentially controlling the women's wrestling business and holding it back in the United States by a great degree, WWE isn't celebrating her name as much these days. They may want to have someone break this record to get it off the books, but, well, good luck with that. And that's our list. If you liked it, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and enable notifications so you don't miss out on another fun wrestling list like this. If you want to see more fun wrestling lists, perhaps about championships, you can see Adam Blampier's list of 10 wrestling belts that never made it to TV. It's a good one.